The chair at the end of the table was cold, metal, unlike the cushioned ones everyone else had. I walked in with pumpkin rolls and boxed wine, only to find that was my place now. Alone. Hi, I'm Alara Quinn. I lost my job 3 weeks ago. My family didn't call. They packed my things and moved me out. Told me to figure it out. Have you ever been punished for giving too much? Told you're unreliable when you held them up? This is my story of being erased and fighting back. What would you do if the people who are supposed to love you forgot you existed? Drop a comment. I'm listening. And this is how I crashed their party. On a private jet. The chair at the end of the table was cold, metal, unlike the plush cushioned ones everyone else had. I noticed it the moment I walked in, before the roast chicken smell hit, before Bryn turned around with her polished grin, before my mother called out from the stove like nothing was broken between us. "You're early, sweetie," she said, not looking up. "You can set the table." My hands tightened around the bakery box. I'd brought pumpkin rolls, her favorite. I also had a grocery bag full of green beans, butter, even boxed wine. After everything, I still showed up like some loyal Labrador hoping for scraps. I said nothing. Just walked over to the dining room, past Bryn, who was adjusting place cards like we were some high society family that needed name tags to keep things civil. I saw mine, Ilara, placed at the very end, right in front of the metal folding chair, the only one that didn't match. "Did we run out of chairs?" I asked, tone light, almost playful. Bryn didn't look up. "You haven't really been around much. Thought the end made sense." I smiled, the kind you force when your gums ache. I placed the plates, one by one, like they didn't just shove me into exile in my own house. Dinner was roasted chicken and tension. My father Martin grumbled about taxes. My mother Celeste asked Glenn, Bryn's husband, about his new consulting firm. No one asked me anything. I might as well have been a server who forgot their uniform. Midway through the meal, I cleared my throat. "I have some news." Silverware paused midair. My voice felt too loud. "I was laid off 3 weeks ago. Department restructure." My mother gasped, performatively. "Oh my." She sipped her wine. My father blinked behind his glasses, then looked back at his plate. Nothing. Bryn leaned in toward Glenn, stage whispered, "Well, that explains the jeans." I told you she was spiraling. I kept my voice even. "I'm okay. Just wanted you all to know. I'm not asking for anything." Bryn turned, suddenly engaged. "That's why I told them you were unreliable. No job. No mortgage. No man." I looked at her. "Excuse me?" She shrugged. "Come on, Alara. You've never carried any real weight in this family." I almost laughed. "I paid off Dad's tax lien last year." Silence. I looked to my mother. Her eyes met mine, glassy but sharp. "We think it's best if you take some time. Get your bearings. Maybe some distance." Bryn stood, reached into her purse and slid a manila envelope across the table like a waitress delivering the check. "We packed your things. Your old room's becoming a meditation space." Glenn's idea, no doubt. I looked at all of them, one by one, and none of them met my eyes. I stood up. The metal chair scraped against the hardwood with a screech. I grabbed my purse. "Thanks for dinner. I won't stay where I'm not welcome." No one moved. Not a single goddamn word. Outside, the chill hit me like a slap. On the curb sat a U-Haul. Bryn was on the porch, arms folded. "Your boxes are in your old place," she called. "If you still have the keys." No goodbye, no hesitation. I drove in silence, my fingers gripping the wheel like it was the only thing tethering me to the present. The apartment looked smaller now, dustier. The flickering light in the hallway buzzed like it knew I was coming. A pile of boxes sat by the door, one labeled "Useless Stuff" in thick black marker. No lock. Just a note taped to the door. Utilities off. Inside was silence and shadows. I sat against the wall, unsure how I wasn't crying. Then I noticed it. An old file box buried behind a mess of cords and dishware. Inside, mortgage papers, bank statements, a deed, my name, my handwriting. The apartment had been mine. Still was. They hadn't just discarded me. They'd erased me. A cold realization settled in my chest like stone. They didn't think I was weak. They knew I was strong. That's why they had to get rid of me. I stayed awake all night, fingers gripping the edges of those papers like they were life rafts. The sun rose slow and gray. By morning, I was no longer the daughter they thought they could silence. I was Alara Quinn, and I was done begging for a seat at any table that didn't want me. I stared at the deed like it was a betrayal written in ink. My name, my signature, the same shaky cursive I'd practiced on high school permission slips. It was all there, on a property no one believed still belonged to me. At least, not anymore. By mid-morning, I was in my car, documents bundled tight in a manila folder on the passenger seat. The air still held last night's chill, and the dashboard clock blinked 8:03 a.m. I wasn't going to work. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to the recorder's office. Inside, fluorescent lights buzzed and the linoleum floor had that slightly sticky feel of bureaucracy. I walked up to the counter with the kind of resolve that comes after being flattened. "Hi," I said, voice steady. "I need the property record for 1214 West Langdon Avenue." The clerk, Janice per her lanyard, barely looked up. "ID?" I handed it over. She typed, paused, typed again. Her lips pursed. "According to this, the deed was transferred 3 years ago to a Bryn Quinn." I felt my heart knock once, hard. "Is the mortgage still attached?" More typing. "Yes, still under your name." "That's not normal, is it?" She glanced at me now. Really looked. "Not unless someone refinanced without updating the borrower." The papers printed out with a shudder. I took them, thanked her, and walked out slowly, heart pounding in my ears. This wasn't just family drama. This was fraud. My next stop was the bank. The branch on Main still had the same gold and blue sign I remembered from when I first signed those papers. I hadn't been back since. The manager was a man named Mr. Collins, trim suit, polite eyes. "I need to review the mortgage file for 1214 West Langdon," I said, placing the ID and printed records on the table. "Of course." He flipped through them, frowned, and excused himself to the back. The bank's interior was polished glass and carpeted silence. As Mr. Collins excused himself, I caught my reflection in the desk's shiny surface, dark circles under my eyes, hair tied too tightly, jaw clenched like I was chewing on restraint. Somewhere in the ceiling, a faint hum buzzed, not unlike the white noise in my head. When he returned, his brow was furrowed. "Ms. Quinn, the refinance 2 years ago used your social security number, but the signature here?" He turned the paper toward me. "Doesn't match the one on file." My stomach dropped. "That's not how I sign." He nodded. "That's why we keep audit footage. Would you like to request a fraud investigation?" I let the silence stretch a few seconds too long, then leaned forward just enough for my voice to register clearly. "This is not mine, and I want an investigation. Today." He began filling out the form. My hands were trembling as I signed it, this time with my real name, my real signature. Back at my apartment, I found a scented candle, lavender, half-burned from better days. I lit it not for comfort, but for contrast. I wanted the room to smell soft while I laid out hard truths. One by one, I spread receipts across the table like war medals. The flame flickered, reflecting off the glossy ink on each bank printout. Later, when I spoke to Mara, she adjusted her glasses just slightly after reviewing my files. You've been documenting everything? Down to check numbers? She asked. Her voice wasn't surprised, it was impressed. They underestimated you. There was a moment after that call, quiet, suspended, when I stood in front of the apartment window. Outside, a delivery truck passed. Inside, my own breath fogged the glass. I traced a small circle in the condensation. A reminder. I was still here. At the bottom of one envelope was a forgotten sticky note from Bryn. Faded ink in her handwriting. Ilara, just keep this somewhere. You're better with boring details. I stared at it for a long while. Then I peeled it off, folded it, and tucked it into my wallet. Not as a keepsake, as evidence. The next time my phone buzzed with a blocked caller ID, I didn't flinch. I stood, turned on the overhead light, the bright kind, unforgiving, and let it ring out. If they wanted a quiet woman, they should have picked someone else. Back at my apartment, I spread everything out like a battlefield. Deeds, tax receipts, emails printed from a 5-year-old Gmail thread. Every thank you from my parents for covering the bills. Every message from Bryn asking me to handle the boring stuff. I opened a drawer and pulled out a leather-bound notebook. It still smelled like ink and coffee. Inside, I'd logged every payment I'd ever made on that apartment. Dates, amounts, check numbers. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't unstable. I was the only reason any of them had a roof for the last 5 years. Have you ever been the one holding everything together, only to be told you're unreliable and unwanted? That quiet ache of being the family's secret burden. If you've felt invisible to those you love most, drop a comment with the number 7 below. Now, let's see what happens next. Trevor called that evening. How are you holding up? I have enough documentation to bury them. Then don't wait, he said. Call her. So I did. Mara Lynn's voice was calm, clipped, surgical. I explained everything. By the end of my story, she asked one question. Do you want this quiet, or do you want them to feel it? I looked at the stack of receipts. The note on the door. The word useless scrawled across my belongings. I want them to feel it. We met the next morning. Her office smelled like eucalyptus and judgment. She reviewed the folder, then slid it back to me. This is more than enough. We'll begin with a cease and desist letter and file for an injunction to freeze the property. Quiet, but effective. As I left, I felt lighter. Not triumphant. Just ready. Then my phone buzzed. Caller ID. Mom. I shouldn't have answered, but I did. Ilara, Celeste began, saccharine sweet. Bryn says you're confused. You've had a rough few weeks. I didn't reply. You know, she continued, people under stress often create stories. Maybe a short visit with doctor? Murphy could help? Just a wellness check. There it was, the gaslight wrapped in concern. I hung up. That evening, I received a formal notice. Bryn had filed a countersuit. Emotional distress? Defamation. She wanted a gag order. I sat on my bed, folded the letter slowly, and reached for my journal. At the back, in my own handwriting, I had once scribbled, "If I ever forget who I am, read this." I wasn't going to forget again. They wanted me quiet. They should have picked someone else. The moment I hit post on the video, I felt my hands go cold. Not with fear, but with release. The truth had been sitting in my throat like a stone for too long. I watched the upload bar inch forward, the loading circle spinning with what felt like years of buried history. I didn't script it, didn't cry, didn't beg. I sat in front of a white wall with stacks of documents behind me, each one marked and dated. I told them everything: the property, the refinancing, the fake signature, the gaslighting, the dinner where my own mother let me be humiliated while sipping boxed Chardonnay. The views ticked up faster than I expected. 500 in the first hour. then 2,000. By lunch, it had crossed 15,000. The comment section was a battlefield of disbelief, anger, and solidarity. This happened to me. You're not alone. Same story, different names. You're what strength looks like. Someone reposted it on Reddit. Then a women's finance blog picked it up. A mom's Facebook group turned it into a rallying cry. By nightfall, the hashtag started trending. Believe Alara. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just watched the silence break. The next day, my inbox exploded. Podcast invites, blog interviews, even a local radio segment request. I said yes to just one. Voices Over 40, a podcast for women who'd had enough. When they called, the host, Ari, spoke like we'd known each other forever. She asked questions no one else had asked. Not, how could they? But, how did you survive it? I told her, I kept records. I read the fine print. I stayed silent until I was strong enough to be loud. The episode went live that evening. Within hours, someone leaked Bryn's video. It was a mess. Poorly lit, overly rehearsed, and full of lines like, I was just trying to help. And, some people twist facts to play victim. The comments were brutal. This reeks of guilt. She's lying. Badly. I believe the sister with the receipts. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. But then, an email. Subject, I think I can help. Sender, Marla Crosby. I didn't recognize the name, but the first line stopped me cold. You don't know me, but I used to work with your sister, and you're not her first target. We met that evening in a quiet cafe on Walnut. Marla was in her mid-40s, sharp blazer, tired eyes. She did it to me too, she said, sliding a phone across the table. Emails, DMs, little manipulations at first, then bigger ones. Eventually, I was pushed out of a deal I started. The screen showed a chain of messages from Bryn, eerily similar to the ones I remembered. Let me handle it. It's cleaner this way. You must have misunderstood. And the final one. No one's going to believe you anyway. That's her favorite line, Marla muttered, sipping her coffee. I felt my jaw tighten. She's been doing this for years. Marla nodded. She counts on you being too embarrassed to fight back. We exchanged contacts. I left with more than proof. I left with pattern. Back home, I added Marla's screenshots to my file. I opened my journal, flipped past old entries, and wrote in bold ink. She's not just a bad sister. She's a repeat offender. Trevor came by with dinner, takeout and a bottle of wine. You're trending, he said, sliding his phone over. The top headline read, Daughter sues over property fraud. Sister previously accused by colleague. Below it, a blurry image of me stepping out of Mara's office. You okay? He asked. I'm getting there, I said. We sat in silence for a moment, watching my name rise and fall on social feeds. I'm not scared of them anymore, I whispered. Good, Trevor said, because they're scared of you now. As the wind moved through the open window, I sat beside it with my journal balanced on one knee and my fingers tapping softly against the leather cover. The air carried the scent of fresh-cut grass and distant rain. Missouri's weather always held its secrets in the wind. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel trapped inside my apartment. I felt still. A sticky note clung to the edge of my laptop, pale yellow and curling at the edges. It was one of Bryn's, old handwriting from college. Don't overthink it, you always do. I didn't tear it off. I let it sit there like a rotting artifact, reminding me just how long she'd been this way. The room around me was dim, lit only by the soft amber glow of a salt lamp and the static light from my paused video feed. My reflection in the dark laptop screen stared back. Tired, but not broken. Not anymore. On the counter, the red light on my landline voicemail blinked. Slow, steady. A call had come in. I didn't answer. Instead, I pressed play. Ilara. My mother's voice echoed through the room, syrupy and too calm. We saw the video. Maybe it's time you talk to someone. I've spoken with Dr. Murphy. He says he's willing to help. Just a conversation. Click. I stood in the quiet after, chest rising slowly. This wasn't a concern. It was containment. At that moment, the cafe meeting with Marla flashed through my mind again. The way she had whispered, "She won't stop until she's believed." Like it was a prophecy. I walked to the fridge, opened it, and saw the last thing I'd forgotten about. An old bottle of white wine, dusty and half empty. I placed it on the counter, turned it slightly until the label faced me. It was the brand Mom always brought to Sunday dinner. Then I took a marker and wrote across it in thick black letters, "Do not drink the poison again." Just as I sat back down, my phone buzzed, a number I didn't recognize. I let it ring. Then came a text. "Tell your lawyer to back off. You're making things worse for everyone." No name, no reply. I looked at the message, then at the wine, then out the window. They were watching. That meant they were worried. And that meant I was winning. That night, I posted just one sentence to my followers. "When you plant lies, don't be surprised when the garden turns on you." Then I shut my laptop and went to sleep with the window open, for the first time in weeks. The air felt different. So did I. The folder on Mara Lynn's desk was thicker than it had been the last time we met. She flipped through the pages slowly, deliberate and quiet. Each page sounded like a verdict as it turned. The hum of her office printer was the only noise between us. "This is more than enough," she said, finally looking up. "We're not just holding ground anymore. We're going on offense. Have you ever reached the point where silence isn't an option and standing up is the only way forward? When fighting back feels like the only chance to reclaim your life? If you've ever had to make that choice, drop a comment with the number 9 below. Now, let's see how I fight back." She slid a stapled packet toward me. "First, an injunction to freeze the property. That will block any attempt by your sister or parents to sell, refinance, or transfer the deed." I nodded. My palms were pressed against my thighs to steady the tremble. "Then," Mara continued, "we file for damages and initiate a fraud investigation based on your signature being forged. The mortgage is still legally under your name. That makes them exposed." Her tone was even, but I saw it in her eyes. Satisfaction, tightly leashed. I took a breath. Let's do it. That afternoon, we drove to the notary's office. Mara insisted on having their records reviewed. The receptionist tried to stall until Mara flashed her badge from the Bar Association. Inside, we found the date, the one on the refinance documents. I checked my email archive and found a flight confirmation. I'd been out of state that day. Another piece clicked into place. "This," Mara muttered, "is getting uglier by the minute." Back at my apartment, I spread out everything on the floor. The receipts, the deed, the original mortgage agreement. Even birthday cards from my parents thanking me for always showing up. One had a note in my father's handwriting, "Couldn't have kept the house without you." I stared at it like it was a joke I hadn't gotten the punchline for. My phone buzzed. "Trevor, check your email. You're going to want to see this." I opened the attachment. A mortgage audit document. Highlighted. Every payment made from my bank account for the last 5 years. The audit firm's logo sat in the corner like a final stamp. Then came the call. "Ms. Quinn," a clipped male voice said. "This is Greg Stamos. I've been asked to verify notarized documents involving your name. I believe you've already filed for injunction?" "Yes," I said cautiously. "Then you should also know. Your name has been flagged in a separate filing, submitted by a relative under power of attorney that expired 2 years ago. Who? I already knew. Bryn Quinn. My chest went still. I wasn't angry. I was beyond it now. There was only momentum. That evening, I returned to the apartment and opened the windows. The night air was brisk, laced with the smell of distant barbecue and someone's detergent. I placed every document into an accordion binder labeled Truth. Thick black letters. No more hiding. I caught my reflection in the glass. Same face, but sharper. Not older. More real. The next morning, we walked into the county courthouse together. Me and Mara. I wore black slacks, a slate gray coat, and a scarf that had once belonged to my godmother. Her house was tied into this too, through a clause I hadn't touched yet. But that was coming. The clerk at the filing window didn't even blink as we dropped the motion. Fraud, forgery, financial injury, and the line that made Mara's eyebrow twitch in satisfaction. Request for legal transfer of title based on unilateral financial contribution exceeding 5 consecutive years. Once it was done, we walked out. I didn't say a word. Back home, I found a letter taped to my front door. Pale blue stationery. My mother's handwriting. Sweetheart, this is all going too far. We just want you to come home. Dr. Murphy is still happy to talk when you're ready. Let's not ruin the family over misunderstandings. Underneath it, in smaller print, please don't post anything else online. I laughed. A quiet, joyless sound. I slid the letter into the binder. The courthouse hallway echoed with each step we took. Mara's heels tapped a rhythm of quiet war, and my boots thudded like punctuation marks. Fluorescent lights buzzed above us, flickering faintly. Cheap government bulbs that never died but never fully worked. The walls were a muted beige, papered with notices and judgment. We paused just outside the filing window. I could see my reflection in the glass panel beside the clerk. Hair pulled tight, jaw set, shoulders back. I looked like someone I wouldn't want to lie to. As the clerk took our motion, her nails clacked against the counter. Somewhere down the hallway, a copier chugged. The sound somehow felt louder than it should have, like the whole building was holding its breath. When we walked back outside, the sun had dropped lower. Shadows stretched long across the courthouse steps, and I stood for a beat too long beneath them. A man passed behind me, slowed as if to say something, then kept walking. At home, I lit the small lemon candle I used to burn during graduate school exams. The scent made me nauseous now, too clean. Too full of memories from a version of me that still believed in the word family. Later that night, a soft knock tapped against my door. I froze. Another knock. Then a pause. Then a soft voice. Alara? It was Mom. I stayed still. I know you're there. Still, I didn't move. You don't have to be scared, we just want to talk. Don't make this legal, it's family. I watched her silhouette from behind the curtain, her outline blurred by the thin cotton, warped by the hallway light. She waited a moment longer, then footsteps retreated, slow, deliberate. I didn't open the door. I didn't even breathe until the elevator dinged and the sound faded. But I walked to the kitchen, uncapped a black Sharpie, and wrote on a sticky note, "Next time, use a warrant." I stuck it to the inside of the door, just in case. That night, I opened a bottle of sparkling water, not wine, sat at the table, turned on every overhead light. Then I turned to a fresh page in my journal and wrote, "They tried silence. Now they'll get the truth." Under oath. My phone buzzed again. Another anonymous text. "They can't survive this if you keep going. You'll destroy them." I stared at the screen for a long moment, then typed back one word. Good. You skipped my graduation. So I landed on your lawn, with a plane you can't afford to dream about. Weeks ago, the invitation to the CrossCore Investment Gala arrived, addressed to Bryn and awkwardly, "The Quinn family, Bryn showed it off with a radiant smile, boasting about our new family friends, never imagining I would be the one crashing the party. Austin's son baked the manicured lawns of the estate, reflecting off champagne glasses and expensive watches. Men in tailored suits whispered. Women in silk dresses exchanged knowing looks. The hum of success floated thick in the air. My heels clicked confidently across the marble floor as I stepped off the sleek private jet. The engine's low hum faded behind me as I descended the metallic stairs. The wind tousled my hair, carrying scents of fresh-cut grass and expensive perfume. I adjusted my black dress, feeling every eye turn. A server whispered to a colleague as I passed. "That's her? The daughter?" Their whispers floated on the air like a subtle confirmation of my return. Bryn saw me first. Her smile faltered, eyes narrowing with disbelief. She whispered to Glenn, "What the hell is she doing here?" Her voice was tight, betraying panic beneath the practiced calm. Lucian Cross stepped forward, smiling warmly, extending his hand. "Ms. Quinn, welcome. We're thrilled to have you as our new Director of Strategic Integrity." The confidence in his voice struck a chord, like an unspoken alliance formed. The words hung like a challenge. Bryn's smile froze, lips pressed thin. "You didn't tell us you knew Lucian." Her hand trembled slightly as she lifted a glass of wine, the tremor betraying her facade. "You didn't ask," I said smoothly. "You never asked." Whispers rippled through the crowd. Cameras clicked, capturing Bryn's fall from queen of the party to shadow. Bryn stood nearby, introducing me as a financial advisor who handled property crises. She laughed, forcing casual when a guest sneered. "Your sister's the unstable one, right?" Her forced grin faded quickly as her gaze flicked anxiously around. Then, a staff member interrupted, whispering to Lucian, "Ma'am, your guest from Jet L3 has arrived." A gust of wind swept the lawn as the private jet settled on the grass near the villa. I stepped down the stairs, my black dress simple yet commanding, eyes steady and unshaken. "You forgot my graduation, so I thought I'd come to yours," I said firmly. All eyes locked on me. Bryn went pale, forcing a brittle smile, whispering, "What are you doing here?" I shook Lucian's hand as he introduced me. "This is Ms. Quinn, our incoming Director of Strategic Integrity." Everything shattered. Celeste gasped. "You didn't tell us you knew Lucian." "You didn't ask. You never ask," I replied calmly. Mara Lynn appeared, holding a sealed yellow envelope. "This just arrived. Legal summons and a demand for full restitution," she said, sliding it to Bryn. Bryn's hands shook. "She's lying. She forged—" Lucian's cold voice cut through. "Funny, that's exactly what the forensic report says. About you." Bryn collapsed into a chair, eyes vacant. Cameras zoomed in, capturing every moment. A caption flashed on a guest's phone. "Rich girl meltdown. Turns out sister owns the house." Outside, the Texas sun dipped low, painting fiery orange streaks. I stood by the tree line, scrolling through messages, solidarity, support, outrage. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number read, "You think this is over?" I smiled, fingers steady on the screen. "It's just begun." Later, as I moved through the crowd, I felt Bryn's gaze burn into my back. She forced a smile, but her hand trembled as she gripped a glass of wine. The soft murmur of guests filled the air, punctuated by the discreet clicks of cameras capturing every moment. After the event, a reporter sent an email. "Would you like to comment on what just happened?" The question lingered in my inbox like an unspoken recognition of the upheaval. The soundtrack swelled as the jet landed, the scene captured in slow motion. My steps down the metal stairs, sunlight catching my hair, the soft sway of my dress. The lights of the estate shimmered, casting a golden glow that mingled with the evening breeze. Cameras cut close to each face. Curious guests. A dismayed Bryn. Stiff Martin and Celeste. Focused Mara. And me, the center of the storm. As the event drew to a close, text messages appeared on screen. You said you'd never touch it. A ghostly threat lingering like a shadow over the evening's triumph. I used to whisper for space at their table. Now I hold the deed to the house they tried to erase me from. The courthouse was quiet that morning, but my heart thundered beneath the calm. Mara walked beside me, her strides confident and steady, mirroring the resolve swelling inside me. I clutched a heavy folder bursting with documents, receipts, affidavits, emails, all the proof I had collected over the years, once invisible, now unstoppable. We stepped into the judge's chambers, the scent of aged wood and leather-bound volumes wrapped around us like a solemn witness. The judge's eyes, sharp and unwavering, scanned the papers with deliberate care. Then, his voice filled the stillness. "By law and by record," he said slowly, "the house is yours, Miss Quinn. Your continuous financial contributions over 5 consecutive years satisfy the conditions for full ownership." Relief washed over me as though invisible chains shattered and fell away. Later, Mara handed me a heavy set of keys at her office. The cold metal in my palm was weightier than any burden I had carried. The house stood empty, stripped bare of its memories, yet still haunted by echoes of the past. I walked through the room slowly, fingertips tracing the cold walls, the empty windows, the vacant floorboards. In the kitchen, I placed a folder on the counter boldly marked Transfer of Ownership. Quinn Residence to Haven Circle Shelter. This wasn't surrender. It was an offering, a chance to build safety where I never found it. Across the street, Mrs. Dale watched me quietly from her porch. Her loyal dog rested at her feet, eyes warm and understanding. "Didn't think you'd ever come back," she said softly. I smiled, resting my hand gently on my car door. No slam, no fury, just a quiet goodbye. At my new home, the garden had become a sanctuary. The wind had snapped a branch, and beneath it lay a silver pendant, the one my mother had given me when I was 11. I tied it carefully to a branch above the garden path and whispered words I once didn't understand. I used to think love was a sacrifice. Now I know real love never demands silence. That night, I sat with a cup of tea, opening the last page of my journal. No more scheming, no more proving. Just this. I used to beg for a seat at their table, even when it cost me pieces of myself. The moment I stood up, I realized I could build my own. The courthouse hallway echoed beneath our footsteps as Mara and I left the judge's chambers. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, their steady buzz punctuating the silence. Shadows stretched long and thin along the floor, mirroring the tension that still clung to me. Later, at home, I lit a lemon-scented candle. Once a comfort during exams, now a fragile balm for a weary soul. Its sharp scent mingled with the night air drifting through an open window, carrying distant sounds of a barbecue and the faint scent of detergent. A soft knock at the door startled me. I froze. Knock. Pause. Knock. "Alara?" The voice was familiar, soft but determined. I did not move. "I know you're there," she said. Still, I remained silent. "You don't have to be scared. We just want to talk. Don't make this legal. It's family." I watched her silhouette through the thin curtain, the outline blurred by hallway light and cotton fabric. After a long moment, the footsteps retreated, slow and measured. I did not open the door. Instead, I uncapped a black Sharpie and scrawled on a sticky note, "Next time, use a warrant." I stuck it to the inside of the door, just in case. The night settled around me with a gentle hush. I poured a cup of tea, the warmth spreading through my hands, steadying my breath. Outside, The garden stirred softly as the wind whispered through the branches. The silver pendant caught the moonlight. A quiet reminder that freedom was not given, but taken. And I had finally taken mine. I have reclaimed the peace and freedom I deserve, no longer living in the shadows of betrayal or silent despair. Every step I take now is a testament to resilience and restored dignity. Karma spares no one. Greed and ingratitude will dig their own graves, while the courage to stand up for yourself opens the door to true justice and freedom. Have you ever faced injustice or betrayal? Share your story with me so together we can find strength and our own voice. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next stories of struggle, recovery, and justice.